Hello. In the previous video, we covered some absolute basics of HTML. And we created something that looked like this. And this was created by using some code that looked like this. Now, before we go any further with writing HTML and learning about things like attributes and entities, we're going to focus on some core elements of website design. And that is focusing on the infrastructure of our website. So, the folders. So we're going to be looking at the folder structure of building or when building a website. Now, if we think back to video 1, that's really all that a website is. We talked about the internet being a global network of networks, and so we said that, well, there could be a network here, which there could be a server here in the UK, and there could be, so this is a server, and there could be a server over here in the USA. And that the internet is one network connected to another. And we talked about the World Wide Web being a collection of multimedia pages that are hosted on the internet. And if you think about that, let's imagine that this server here is for the BBC's website, okay? And what we're doing from this point here in the USA, and this can be just someone's home server, so this is someone's home, and they want to access the BBC's website. So on the BBC server, there will be some sort of folder structure, okay, and inside this folder there will be files, and these will be HTML files. And there's probably lots and lots of them, and without getting too complex, we could dig into details. So for those of you who are analyzing this as experts, yes, we could be talking about databases, so SQL databases being in the background, driving these pages, etc. But to keep it very simple, we're going to talk about it as if on the server of the BBC there is a folder, and this would be the BBC's website. And inside that folder there would be many files, and these many files would all be .html, for example, .html, and if, for example, I wanted to go to bbc.co.uk/sport, so I wanted to go to the sports page, inside my BBC website there would probably be a folder, and that folder would be called sport, and inside that folder there would be even more files here, and they would be .html. And when I'm going to bbc.co.uk/sport, all I'm really doing is I'm using the internet to access the BBC server. So when I hit this folder here, I am at the bbc.co.uk. I then go through into this folder here at the sports page, so that's going in here, and then I'm accessing the first page that I come to, which is this one. And so this folder structure that we've got here is obviously really important, this folder structure, because if we haven't got the correct folder structure, or we haven't got a suitable folder structure, these directories, these places that we visit, can get very complicated. So if you want to create a website with many pages, it's really important that right from the very start you get good folder structure within your website. So the key to this is having good folder structure, and you know that's just good practice, not just when building websites, but in the day-to-day running of your directories, making sure that your My Documents are organized, making sure that you've got good file names and good folder names used throughout so that you can locate your work. And that same practice goes into building websites. So we're going to focus on that today. So if we just go back over here, and you can remember that, if you remember, we created this little page here called test.html. Now again, if you're building a website, that's not the first thing you would do. You would set up the folder structure that you want to use. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to minimize this window here. I'm going to go onto my desktop. I'm not going to delete this file right now, but I am going to go into here and close it. Okay? So let's just move that out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my desktop and I'm going to create a new folder, and this folder is going to be called website. Now I have a certain way of building websites. So when I build websites I have certain rules that I follow, and these rules aren't necessarily standard, but they work well for me. My very important advice is for any folder or any file that you create. So let me just create a new file of this so that it's being written down as well. So any folder or any file that you create, never use spaces. Okay, so if you wanted your folder to be called my website, straight away you've got a space. Don't use spaces. To replace the spaces, use underscores. A lot of people, when designing their websites, will use a capital letter, my, and then another capital letter, and not put any spaces in there. Okay, so the capital letters show the difference in the words. I prefer to keep all my files and folders in lowercase and use any spaces that are required. I use an underscore instead of a space, and that's just, that's the way I do it, and it's good practice because later on when you're referring to certain pages, it's going to get things very complex and complicated and confusing if you do have spaces in your file names. So again, I'm just going to go back here and I am going to call this my underscore website. Okay, so I haven't used any spaces. If you want to do something different and you want to call it my website and use capitals instead, that's fine. But I've always done it this way, so I'm not about to change. So my website. Now, inside there, I might want to put this file called test.html. So if I open this up, that's what my folder structure now looks like. And that's okay, but if I'm thinking bigger picture, what I might actually want to do is inside this my website folder, I might want to create another folder called images, and I will want to create, store all the images that I use on this website inside this folder. Another folder that I always create is a folder called CSS, and that's something we'll come on to in later video tutorials. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's something that we're going to use to style all of our pages. But for now, it's really important that you get this folder structure correct in your head. Have a good think about the pages that you want to create, the images that you want to use, and everything like that, and come up with a good folder structure. Don't make it too complicated. You don't want too many folders inside folders inside folders. And then one more key rule. The very first page, the very first page that you want your user to land on when they visit your website, so we call this the landing page, must be called, that's not very well written, must be called index.html. Index.html. It doesn't have to be uppercase. In fact, I won't use uppercase. I will just call it index.html. But if you think about it, when you go to, for example, the BBC website, if you go to the BBC website, how does it know, out of all of the millions of pages that the BBC have got, how does it know to make this one the first one? Well, that's because the very first page that you come to on any website is always called index. And I'm just going. So if I go to my own personal website, emu.co.uk, and I don't want to overcomplicate things, but if I put /index, now I've created my pages using, it uses HTML, but it's a more complex programming language that makes my pages dynamic. Don't worry too much about this. As long as it's called index dot either HTML or PHP or ASP, it will be exactly the same page. So my mwu.co.uk, it knows to look for the index page. So the page that's called index, it looks for that first and it puts it as the landing page. Okay, so it's really important that your very first file, we've called this test.html, it must be called index.html. And that will be the very first page. So when someone navigates to my website, if they just type in www.my_website.co.uk, index will be the first page that it shows. Okay, so that's a really important rule to be aware of.